We as humans are more resilient than you could ever imagine. And if you look back the history of time around the world, the things that people have overcome. My mentor overcame as a 5-year-old girl living in the concentration camps going through the Holocaust. My mother went through some really hard times and she overcame it. But I mean, globally, you just see the things that we have as a world, not just one nation, a world has overcome. I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are way more resilient, and your day-to-day challenges you could get over.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I am your host, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert, Dr. V here. And I am super excited about today's podcast because I bring in a good friend of mine. In fact, I am a big fan of hers on Instagram because in her Instagram stories, she shares behind the scenes footage of her coaching some of the most elite athletes all over the world in the NHL, in the NBA. I get so jealous every time I watch her Instagram stories because hey, I'm a big basketball fan. And on today's podcast, she really talks about resilience and grit and what it takes to become elite, how to create peak performance, how to get up every time you get knocked down. This trait, this attribute is something that we all need in this upcoming year as we face a lot of changes in the government, in AI changing the way we work and live. So these traits of peak performance is so important and you'll want to tune in. Now, before I get into introducing our guest today, I wanted to welcome all the newcomers to the Thrive State podcast. Hey, I'm Dr. Kien. This is a place where I have the true honor and privilege of interviewing some of the world's leading minds in wellness, longevity, biohacking, peak performance. And if you are new here, let me welcome you in with a gift. They are some longevity and peak performance resources that you can get at thrivestatestarter.com. And if you would like worksheets and journal prompts, how you can get into what I call your thrive state, which is the state of being where you'll be able to cultivate play that turns on the biology of human performance and longevity, go to mythrivestate.com/toolkit. And also, if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, Thrive State, you need to. It is at thrivestatebook.com. It's really the manual to let you know you are in the driver's seat of your health and performance, that you are in the driver's seat of your success in life. It really unpacks what holds you back and ultimately the things that you need to focus on to get you into the Thrive State. Now, on to today's episode. My guest today is better known as Coach Dar. She is actually Darlene Santore, a world-renowned mental edge and leadership coach guiding athletes in the NFL, the MLB, the PGA, the WNBA, Fortune 100 executives, and elite high performers all over the planet. She helps build resilience and master their mindset. She is a board-certified occupational therapist, a sought-after motivational speaker, and former Phoenix Suns mental skills coach. She is the author of the best-selling book, The Art of Bouncing Back. Find your flow to thrive at work and life anytime you're off your game. Today, you're going to hear a very inspirational story. You'll hear the story of a woman that went through 3 strokes and profound personal loss to be able to bounce back and now work with the elite performers all across the planet. I think you're going to be truly inspired by her story, and I think you will take away some insights that, if applied, will really take your life to the next level. So listen in closely. Take notes because you're in for a treat. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Dar, Darlene Santore. Darlene Santore, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you have me here. Could not wait for this.
I am so excited, and I think when people find out more about you and more about your journey, they will probably have your mind blown. My mind is already blown. How somebody went from an occupational therapist to be working with some of I am a big fanboy. I watch the NBA, I watch all these sports, and to see you work so closely with these people that I'm fanboying over is amazing.
It's definitely fun. As we get into it, I never planned to be in pro sports, but my journey and my skill set brought me to I had no idea my life journey would bring me here, but it's exactly where it's supposed to be.
Oh, I can't wait to dive in because I'm giddy and I'm very curious. But we start off the show with a segment that my fans and audience knows called the Five to Thrive. 5 questions I just ask, rapid fire. And here's the thing, we're going to be meeting in Austin, I believe, in a week.
Yes.
And so people who win the Five to Thrive actually gets a healthy meal on me. And so this is your opportunity. And I know you're in competitive sports. And so this is your opportunity to win a meal on me
Oh,
as
God.
when we connect. So, Darlene Santore, are you ready to play the Five to Thrive?
Let's go. Let's go.
For 1,000 points, what did you want to be when you grew up as a child?
The first thing I wanted to be was a nun.
1,000 points.
No, like hard no, but yeah, that's what started.
Okay. Question number 2. What one book, phrase, or quote entered your life? And when it did, it just completely turned your life around.
Jesus is CEO and the carpenter.
Ooh, beautiful.
Mhm.
Question number 3. What is one non-negotiable you have for every day of your life?
Oh, the power of prayer and workout.
Okay.
Gratitude and working out, non-negotiable. I have to move and I have to help the neuroplasticity and prayers of out there. So that's non-negotiable.
Okay. Question number 4 is if I handed you a mic, had you sing a karaoke song to a stadium of 150,000 people, what song would you pick?
So this is gonna be so random, but there is a Sugar Hill Gang. They have like hip hop. I don't even know the name of the song, but that's the song that I could sing. That or the Hunky Dance, which is totally inappropriate. Should not be sung, but I don't know why I know all the words to it. But those are like go-to songs. Hip
All
hop,
right.
yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
I think the next time I see you, which is next week, I'll probably be egging you on to do the Humpty Dance. And the last question for you is how does Darlene want to be remembered?
That I inspired people and awoken them to greatness.
I love the word woken.
Mhm.
5,000 points. You win the Five to Thrive, which means when we connect next week in Austin, you get a healthy meal on me, Coach Dar.
I love it. I look forward to it.
We're going to get into your story and just so much to kind of unpack there. But, as a doctor, I'm very curious. You have 3 life-threatening strokes
Mhm.
that you've experienced at the age of 25. Was that? What was the diagnosis and what
Right.
was going on in your life? Can you kind of walk us through that very first stroke and the subsequent ones?
So the first one started when I was 25, and at the time, I had married my college sweetheart. I was working at the hospital as an occupational therapist on the neuro floor, taking care of traumatic brain injured patients, growing in the hospital, literally had my first home. I was what I thought living the American dream. I was
Mm.
excited. And we had just bought the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. I could not wait to start a family. He was an all American athlete. I was a great athlete, and he was all American. So we joked around and thought, we're going to have the most epic sports athlete kids. And that's what I thought life was going. And I hurt my back lifting a patient. And I had this sciatic pain that just would not go away. So I went to go see a chiropractor, and I went to go see the chiropractor. They manipulated my neck, and what I didn't know is they ripped the vertebral artery. And so I was bleeding in my brain, but I didn't know when I left the appointment because it was a slow bleed. And so it wasn't until a little later that all of a sudden the floor flipped upside down at work, and the floor was the ceiling and the ceiling was the floor. But Ken, I didn't, even though I treated my patients and I know stroke, I didn't have paralysis and I had pain in my head and I had perceptual, but it just, I didn't think this was a stroke. I didn't think I was having something occlude blood supply to my brain. And that's exactly what happened. In time, I came to find out that they first misdiagnosed me, and what was a blood clot, they'd misdiagnosed as a tumor. So they were going to treat a tumor. And then that's when we found my own neurologist because I just wasn't getting answers. And he's like, oh my gosh, you have a blood clot that's occluded complete blood supply to the left side of your brain. So, anyways, that started the journey of dealing with that. That was hard enough. And I will tell you, especially at 25, I take care of my patients. I don't get treated. And so I just kind of masked every symptom so I could try to function instead of doing like real rehab because I just thought I could fix this. I'll take care of it. And then also I was told I couldn't have children. So then you feel as a woman that you
Mm.
can't provide in the way that as an Italian woman, just family is so important. So it was such a hard time. And I look back and I thought, I just plowed through that by just saying, well, sugar, if I could die any day, then I want to go live. And I was like, well, then I'm going to go fix healthcare. And I went back to school at night. And then at 28 was running a healthcare company. And I just started literally just pouring myself into my work and then ran multiple companies. And by 2008, when the recession hit, I thought, I've got to change the way things are happening. I literally stepped out and started speaking for free on mindset and used all the tools that I know in human performance, human behavior, leadership development. And I started to say, you may have lost your job. The market may crash, but you didn't lose your skill set. You still are fully functioning. I help people have their brain removed overcome odds. Like, I got you. That's what started that part of my career. And as I started to speak to people, women would bring their husbands and say, he could go to the next level and be the next CEO, but something's blocking him. Then athletes would come to me and say, I know there's another gear. Why can't I get to it? And so on the down low, I was taking care of people, which started my practice. And that's what's grown to where now I coach professional athletes. But along the way, I had two more strokes. And the last one was after I just finished basically on tour with the Phoenix Suns as their mental performance coach. And after the season ended, that was the worst one. Took away my speech, my fine motor. I had aphasia, which is I couldn't say the right words and I couldn't use my hands the way I wanted to. And I was so mad because I was hitting my stride and then I had a setback again. But I did my own rehab at that time. I did everything that I needed to, and I bounced back way faster than most would ever expected. But I had the tools that I didn't have at 25, just even maturity and also decades of helping people. So I was able to bounce back faster, which then led me to write the book about bouncing back. Not that I wanted to, but life gave me a lot of material to write on it.
Well, I mean, I think that you and I both recognize that those things that potentially had happened to us has really happened for us
Oh,
because
yeah.
we are called to do something much greater.
Mhm.
And but I'm really curious. The first strokes seemed like there was like a physical manipulation and trauma to the vertebral artery. Why did the other strokes happen?
We can't figure it out. I still don't know. And I think they're still narrowing on the space because I've gone for follow-up scans. And I have a feeling something occludes that space. Swelling space, something. I don't know what it is. They can't figure it out. But something blocks off because it's very similar and it's cerebellum and it's the same sort of thing. So I stopped trying to figure it out at this point. You know, medicine. I mean, I have some
Yeah.
other health complications as a result of it that still I'm trying to get to the root cause, but you just get so you're trying to just find solution after solution and I want to feel my best. And there's things that I'm working on, but I also you have to be an advocate and every time you keep going down this rabbit trail, I lose living life. I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm finding the cure that I'm not living life and I just want to live because I don't want to get to the end of my runway and say I never really lived while I was searching for a cure. And thankfully, this is not where it's terminal. I mean, yes, you could have a brain aneurysm and die that day, but sugar, if I do and I go that day, well, then great, I'm going to go and I won't even know about it. So I just say this because I realize I just want to live more life and I want to
Mm.
optimate the days that I have. I want to feel the best that I can. So, I mean, I'm in ozone, infrared, I'm in hyperbaric. I'm doing everything that you can to stay as optimal. And I still have some challenges that happen but sugar, that helps me get through some of the days, and then I try to just live because I that's the whole thing. When the first stroke happened, I was told I could die any day. And when you're
Yeah.
given that card, all you wanna do is live every day. So I just
Mm.
live every day.
While I feel that energy and I feel that desire to live.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this now. So my work is really understanding that feeling of aliveness. is actually a frequency that
Yep.
we're sending and a message that we're sending to ourselves in a moment to moment basis. That energy, that frequency corresponds to certain neurotransmitters, hormones, and even non physical chemical energies that speak to our DNA in a moment to moment basis. And what I've learned is that feeling of aliveness, that feeling of joy, that feeling of being engaged actually lowers inflammation in our body. It actually increases our immune system. It actually preserves our telomeres. So the fact of living life is actually giving messages to ourselves that we have a purpose, and so let's keep going and
Yes.
do what we need to do. So I don't know if you consciously know that you are healing your body by doing so, but now we finally have the scientific tools to prove that energy of living life is truly medicine.
I believe that wholeheartedly because I could feel it. It's this energy frequency. It's frequency medicine. It's energy medicine because it's like when you're in the state of gratitude, you're helping
Yep.
your neuroplasticity, the telomeres, like we know what it does and meditation and all of it. So it is scientific, it is proven. I just think it's intentional living because it's a choice on how you want to show up. It's an intention. When I get up in the morning, my morning routine is to set my alarm to a great song the night before. So when I wake up, my state is already, today was the
Mm.
Fuji's Ready or Not. So I was already in this vibe and state the moment it went off. And then I sit up because I don't want to keep sleeping because I could hit snooze very easily. But I'll sit up and I'll do my prayer meditation and then I set my intention for the day. And I'm literally shifting my state so that I could move into my day at the highest
Mm.
level.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, you talk about that feeling of aliveness. I used to do a lot of therapies on cancer patients, and I used to notice different subsets of patients. There were a set of patients that were constantly waiting for their next labs, their next imaging, and just in fear and survival mode,
Mhm,
which understandably so, they were
mhm,
pouring their energy into that. And I noticed their outcomes were very different from the ones that really had this sense of living. And there was one patient in particular, Bruce, who I treated for liver cancer, and his cancer would just keep appearing and appearing. And he did one thing that I found was miraculous, and I keep telling the story. He had been estranged from his brothers for years, decades. And when he thought he was going to die because these tumors just kept coming back, he really focused on gratitude and forgiveness. And he wrote letters to each one of his brothers saying how he just wanted to reconnect with them and let go of the energy that was blocking them from feeling love for each other. And the more he started to focus on that, coincided with these cancers never coming back. That was 10 years ago, and he's still cancer free.
it's
So,
so real. It's so fascinating you say that because over my journey as a therapist, I would have to quickly assess when I came into the hospital in one day, and I only had maybe 2 interactions, 30 minutes to 45 minutes each time, and I would have to write a whole treatment plan on what we could do, how fast I think they could progress, and then write their goals. And I had no idea how much that would apply later in life. I walked in a room and I could see the power of someone's mindset to say, like, I'm ready. What do we need to do? And even the people around them, if the people around them were positive and they were like, we are here. They were told they were never going to walk again, or they were told they would only have the cognition of a 5-year-old ever again. But we don't believe that. If that was their mindset, they recovered way faster. And I could write the goals faster for them. I already knew. But then if I went to a patient's room that had really been stuck in this and just live in fear and had no hope, I knew the progress was going to be slower. And the same as today. I meet someone and I know from their mindset, both in play in the sport or in business, how quickly we're going to bounce back from something, a game, a bad presentation, something didn't go well in the business, how well they'll lead or they'll perform based on how they show up, based on their mentality, based on their state. And it is such a game changer and how well we will do and where we'll progress based on our state.
yeah. Well, tell us how you built that muscle. I mean, what people know is okay, so we got Coach Star. She's had 3 strokes and she lived through it. And therefore, she's got, she's super dar at this point, right? But What does the process really look like? Because it wasn't just the events and then all of a sudden you're in a great
Right.
state. I mean, there's probably some negative feelings of pain, potentially hopelessness. What was that like? Because I want to let people know or potentially resonate with some of those feelings of where it was like when it was down. And then
Mhm.
maybe you could share what were those initial steps that allowed you to start working on that muscle of resiliency.
Well, I think it's important to note that when we see things in action, we believe it more. So I saw a mother who had 10 heart surgeries. She passed away at 72. And this woman would have to go through such painful things, but yet get up and she was a barber and still go to work. She worked 3 jobs sometimes. She said she felt like she had purpose, and if she was still alive, she'd go. So I saw in real time a very resilient woman and how her being resilient and not giving in to the situation or the circumstances, but yet holding her mindset to this sucks. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it, but she didn't stay there. She used it to fuel her, and she got so many more years out of life than what was expected because of that. So I already saw that in motion. So by the time it comes to me to hit life challenges, I already knew that me sitting in it too long was never going to serve me. However, there was a time that after that first stroke, when I finally dealt with the emotion of it all and I stopped to go start my own practice, I felt the weight of everything and it felt so heavy. And I remember specifically this one summer day, I was so down. I mean, I was down for like 3 weeks. I just couldn't get myself to where I was. And my sister walked into the house and I, like, had my hair on top of my head. I had, like, a fleece on, and it's the summer, but I was, like, in the air condition, me like, cocooning. That's what we do, right? When we wanna pull away, we cocoon, and I said, "I just don't have it in me," and we're a family of faith, so my sister said to me, "Hold on. God did not give you new life to isolate or go back to old ways. You need to get up. You have a gift, you have a talent, you're here to serve a mission, like, you're not here to just sit here. You have to serve the world, like, the world needs you." And I said, "I hear you, but there's literally nothing in me that I could get up. And so I'm going to need something beyond me to give me the strength." And she left. And I have to tell you, I cried. I just cried. And I was sad and I was depressed. And I was like, none of this feels right, but I just don't have the get up and go. And for me at that moment, I literally prayed with everything in me. And I just said, "God, if you were to use me as a vessel to serve this world, then I'm going to need you to give me the strength to get back up because I can't do it. You're going to have to give me some sign. I need a sign." And so at that time, we had Blackberries and I had shut my Blackberry off, I thought. And I used to get these kind of inspirational messages that came Monday through Friday, and this is a Saturday. So there's no way this should have come on a Saturday. And it comes, and at that time, it was a scripture and it was a message. And it said, "You did not get new life to isolate or go back to old ways." Just what my sister said. And it was about getting up and that you are to serve and that there's a mission in front of you. So I, for whatever reason, we look for whatever signs work for us. That locked in with me. I prayed as hard as I could. And I said, "Well, then if this is what's supposed to happen, I'll get up tomorrow and I'm going to need all your strength." Meaning, like, this is beyond me. I can't do this on my own. And I went up, I went to church, and I've never looked back. And I say that because it was like there were other hard moments that came and I've gotten sad. I just don't stay at them as long. And I've built up community to help me when I'm down. I get 24 hours if it's not anything life threatening that I go to talk to someone about. Say, "I don't need you to fix it," or "I do need a solution." I let them know, "This is what I'm feeling. Is this valid? Help me through this." And then I need to figure out what I need to do the next day. And usually just me, after I've recognized it, talked about it, released it, I then could take action. And sometimes it's not even taking action on the problem, but it might be a workout. It might be going in community with friends. I need to shift my state. And the moment I shift my state, I could see things clearly. And it's like when you go up into a plane 30,000 feet high, you look at your problem or you look at the world and you're thinking, my actual problem day to day in this little tiny speck of the whole world is nothing. Like if we were out in the ocean, Mother Nature could just throw that wave right over and we'd be out. We just think it's so monstrous, our problems usually. And our state, we start to catastrophize. So I learned to reframe things. I learned to reframe my situation. I mean, even from having children, I would have loved to have a family. And during this journey, I was told I couldn't. And when I was writing my book and thought I was having another stroke, I went to a new neurologist and he said to me, Dar, did you think that you couldn't have kids? And I said to him, well, I didn't think I couldn't. I was told I couldn't. But there's been relationships that I would have been in happily and married and had a family, but they wanted family. And I thought I couldn't provide that. And this neurologist just 2 years ago goes, I think you could have a family all this time. I thought, wait a minute, what? I had to go coach an NBA player like right after this appointment. And I'm like, you got to lock in. Like, you've got to lock in. But I got in the car and I thought, I've got to reframe this because here's the thing. Regardless of what he said, I can't change the past. I cannot change anything about what happened. I can't change it. It could have, would have, should have is never going to serve me today and tomorrow. So at this moment, it is what it is. And at this moment, I'm really not having kids. But I looked and said, you know what? I feel like a couple of things. If things are meant to be, they'll find a way in our life. That you don't have to force things. Flow is not forced. So what is meant to be all serves us. And this whole time that where it feels lack, I've been able to serve thousands of young adults that could be like my kids in pro sports. And I would have never been able to serve them probably had my life gone in a different way. And the last thing I'll say on this is oftentimes our expectations are what hurt us. We expect life to go a certain way, and that's where the pain really comes. Where you could have standards. Standards are great, but expectations of how someone should be or how life should go or how this is going to happen, how the trip's going to be. Vacation is always supposed to be perfect. Well, life happens. Our expectations actually hurt us, and that to live in this state of surrender, you have goals, you have dreams, you have standards, but there's this surrenderedness and gratitude of the moment that really lets us flow.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed, and please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
Yeah, really trading those expectations for appreciation for life, appreciation for the moment, appreciation for the lessons and blessings of every moment that life is here to give us. Oh, how beautiful. You started working with these really cool athletes. And again, every time I watch your page, I'm like, oh, I wish I could be in that game. Can you talk to us a little bit about what we look at these professional athletes doing some really amazing things, and it might be very daunting for somebody from the outside looking. How does these people tune up to the next level? What do you find
Yeah.
is the blockage that you're working with, with a lot of these people that you're working with?
This is such a good question because when you get to the pros, you're the 1%.
Yeah.
So you've made it to the 1% group. But what happens is now you have to stay sharp within the 1% group because you could fall back at any point and lose your position. And so when you get in there, some people will get there and they only dreamt to get there. They didn't dream what it would be like once they got there and how they'd show up. So the belief system starts to block them because they're like, well, I'm here, but now I'm around LeBron James. I'm around those that play with Tom Brady. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as them. And so there's this belief system. And so I come in and say, hold up. You made it to the 1%. You damn well, you need to believe and have the confidence that you deserve to be here. Now, like anything, you got into medical school and then you start practicing. Your first year of medicine is not like your 10th year of medicine. You experience and you still learn. So I work with them and saying, okay, iron sharpens iron. We need to get you around some of the best players that you could keep learning from so that you learn from them. You ask them questions. Oftentimes people get into the league and then they're afraid to ask. I'm like, these are the greats. Ask them. They will share their knowledge. And how can we get you the edge in your physical, your nutrition, your mental, your emotional? And I start helping them. And the ones that really seek to understand and learn are the ones that become the 1% in the 1%. And I work with the 1% of the 1%. And the reason they're the greats is because they work on all of this. They never just stop and rest on their talent as if, well, I've been here 10 years. I'm so and so. I could just back off now. No way. They are still doing the same amount of shots they did since they were in high school. 300 shots in the same spot to perfect it. They're still in the gym. They're there early. They're learning. I read books with a lot of the guys. I teach them things so they keep their knowledge going. So it's usually their belief system that blocks them. And also, some of them realize, believe it or not, that when they get there, they don't really have the drive to want to sustain and stay in it. And that's what gets them out of it too. Some of them will say, like, this was great, but I just don't have like the next level in me I don't want to do these workouts. Groundhog's Day. Everyone sees the show, but the show is every day for literally 9 to 10 months. Wake up, shoot around, practice, video, lunch, nap, like schedule nap, get up, shoot around, game, get on the plane, fly to the next city, get in at 3 a.m. I mean, I travel with them. I did this all the time. Get up, watch the same thing. There's no weekends. There's no going to the birthday parties. There's no going, oh, your friend got married. There's none of that. And your whole family needs to understand I'm only available at certain times, by the way, in a week or a month, because if you're on the road, you're not even available. So it's not a normal life. And sometimes guys will get there and they'll go, whoa, I either love this or I hate this. And they do it for a couple years and they're out, or they're like, this is the dream I had and it's going to change generational change. And I'm going to do everything I can to be here. But this isn't just sports. This is so much of life, whether you get in a profession. And I've seen people who became lawyers and then all of a sudden they're like, I thought I wanted this. I don't want this. And we call them recovering lawyers. And they're like, I'm done with this. Or honestly, I've had many doctors who left traditional medicine to say, I'm going to do functional medicine or I'm changing it this way. And you know that, you have taken your career and shifted it into what you wanted now. So sometimes you get into places and you're like, I went into the hospital as occupational therapist and I'm one of the best hospitals in the world. And I loved it until I didn't love it. And then I'm like, this is Groundhog's Day. And there's way more. And we could help people in a different way. So, you know, there's different things that bring you to different places. And sometimes you get to some places and you're like, not what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah. When we think of sports and then when we think of performance, whether it be in sport or whether it be in business, many people describe this state of flow, the state of just being so engaged and, mind just, turned off from everything else and you're just sort of in this zone. How do you coach athletes or people in business and life of how they might cultivate this state because it's a state where it seems like you're tapping into something outside of yourself and
Right.
and life just seems to come your way.
I think this is the really good misconception where people feel like you could force yourself into flow. I'm going to do all this to get into flow. And I literally help them unlearn and say, I need you to remove so many things so you could be in flow. And this
Yeah.
goes is for all of us, like the distractions, the mental pressures, adding too much into your routine that it starts to take you out of flow. So I get them to, there's a particular player that I'm thinking of, and he goes to a certain song. We've talked about the power of music and neuroscience. So I'm like, get set the song as you're on the bus on the way to the arena, then or driving, depending if it's home or away. Get the song to play, get yourself in flow, get in. And he's a very, it's got to be specific to the person. So he's very relational, then he is task oriented. So when he gets in, he likes to have conversation. He wants to connect with the other guys. He's like, how you doing? It's his love language. If he feels like his bucket is full before the game and he's connected, he shows up so much better in the game. Whereas if he doesn't and it's just kind of get in and do the task, like anything, he's like, there's no wind in his sails. So I know how to help get him in flow by using all these other kind of measures that just make him feel and his state is in a good place. Because if his state's in a good place, he just plays the game he's been playing since he was 3 and he doesn't have to think about it. It just happens. And
Yeah.
reminding him to have fun. Now, the way you get into flow is that you have to have prepared. So all the practice prepared you so the games are fun. Because again, flow is not forced and forced is not fun. So I tell them your flow state is your most fun state. So have fun in the moment here. You've prepared. Now let it go. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You can't overthink yourself into a win, but flow will help you win.
You say a very important word there, which is fun and play. You
Yeah.
know, I introduce laughter yoga into a lot of the corporate meetings that I go into, and
Yeah.
and I would probably say the majority of people do not like the activity when I first bring it up. They're like, "This guy's going to get us laughing and going." But here's something really funny that if you act, even if you don't want to laugh, and you start laughing and you start to move and you start to change physiologically, when you move, when you bounce, when you breathe, you're starting to change your state. And all of a sudden, you're throwing in laughter.
Mhm.
It basically turns off the part of our brain that's in beta and it puts us in this
Yeah.
state of play and fun.
Yeah.
And what we do know, that state of play and fun actually a trigger for flow state because
Yeah.
it's not something what we feel like we need to do. And
Mhm.
the other aspect it is, I think what you had mentioned before was just really living. Because when you are your authentic you and everybody, and this is the thing, this is why it's so different for everybody, right? There's some people that are connectors, there are some people that are movers, but there's a way each individual lives life authentically where they feel alive and whatever they do those things,
Yes.
there's an ease and there's a fun, there's a play to them. And that seems to really allow us to tap into the magic of life.
Oh my gosh. The ultimate thing is when you're authentically allowed to be you. You allow yourself to be authentically, truly you. You have the most joy in life. You're not trying to be anything other than yourself. And then, by the way, you perform better. You show up better. The flow states happen more and more. You have more of those states that happen because life is just authentically where you need to be. And people ask me all the time, how do you walk into locker rooms and boardrooms and even the White House and places? And I said, because I'm authentically me. I'm walking in as me. I'm not walking in as someone else. I'm not educating on something else. I'm literally in my lane, being me. And just by being me, it's connecting with people and it's showing up. And then there's no imposter syndrome. There's no walls that show up. And then people just feel like they could generally connect with you. Why? Because you gave them your real self, which that is something I pray everyone naturally or will shift and start to do more of.
You know, for me, I'm going to be honest, for my process, I think I step into that a little bit more every single day. And it took me a while for me to remember me. I still think there's probably different layers to doing so. And I remember maybe even 20 years ago, always hearing, you got to be you, you got to be you. And to me, that was always kind of lip service because there was still something else that felt like it had to drive the narrative and drive that decision making. What was it about your life's journey? And did you feel like there were times that you were wearing a mask? And what points in your life did you know that, hey, you choose you every single day? And what does that
Yeah.
look like exactly practically for people?
I think it was in 2008 when I went to go start the practice because
Mm.
and I wanna just say something. When I say be you, I call people up. I want you to be the best version of you. Because when people say, "This is how I am, just deal with it," and it's not healthy, no, absolutely not. That's not an authentic, healthy self, and the world should not have to deal with that. You have to do your work. We all have to do our work, and when we do our work, we all serve the world better. So, I always give that, like, asterisk point of be you, but if it's, then I get people like, "Well, she said be you, and this is me." And I'm like, What's that the best version of you showing up?" And so I want you to work on yourself. But it was in 2008 when I started my practice and I really was stepping into what I knew from my training, my profession, the work I've done, that this was going to serve people. This was going to help. And I had no business plan. I had no clients. There was no money coming in. I went from making really good money to then making nothing to step out. My father goes, "What the hell is wrong with you? Is this your stroke talking?" And I was like, "No, I just know I need to get this out in the world. I need people to be able to learn this." And so when I looked at how can I serve and how can I give a gift by when I show up and the knowledge I have, it took away. I wasn't there to prove something. I wasn't there to try to make a certain amount of money. I wasn't there trying to be seen as something. And even to this day, whether I get up on stage to speak or I show up in a room, my intention is why am I here and what am I doing to serve the people in front of me? And how does that authentically come out? Because there's no motive. And the moment you take motive out of it and you just show up, there's joy in the other person. Because I've been on that end. Someone asked me, "Why is my best friend my best friend? Why do I always love being around this person?" I said, "Because there's no motive. There's no motive. They love just being in my space and I love being in their space." The moment you put motive to a situation, it authentically takes out the authenticity. And you're like, you're in here because you're trying to make a contact, or you're in here because you're trying to be seen as something, or get more views, or whatever it is. And it's like the motive takes away the authenticity.
I tell people all the time, you are your best medicine. And I think through this conversation, people will really, really understand what that
Yeah.
really means.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
the authentic you is this, we want to get a little woo woo, is this frequency, this vibration of
Oh, it is
the
though.
the uniqueness of who you are. And that actually is very healing. And whether it be peak performance, whether it be health, whether it be longevity, all these things are byproducts of you stepping into the frequency, the vibration, the state of you.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, when you walk in a room and people have been laughing or they're happy, that's energy frequency. And you could not have heard the conversation, but you feel it. You feel like this room feels good. Like something good must happen. And then if people have been in a fight or it's been tension, and again, you didn't hear it, but you walked in, you hear people say, "You could cut this like a knife." That's the frequency. That's the energy. You're feeling it. So our states absolutely affect ourselves and others.
yeah. And when you work with teams, when you work with organizations, we can be mindful of that
Yes.
because the state that we are in is the messages we give to every single cell in our body. And if we start looking like at our families, our sports teams, our organizations, humanity itself, we look at them as the body and us individual cells. We could ask, can the state of this organism that is our teams and people
Right.
around us, and
Yeah.
through the time people like, oh well, how do I change them, how do I change that? And from this conversation and how I know you've lived your life, and what I've also noticed is there's really no need to feel like you have to change them. But if you shift you and you're consistently almost sort of like as a lighthouse, no matter what's happening around you in that state,
Yep.
you will calm the storms that are around you as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, all the time. And you know what? What wins championships? Every team that's made it to the World Series, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup is the team that's not just talented. They had the best chemistry, team chemistry. So that's the energy in the room. It's the love for each other. And when teams have stacked talent, but they can't win, the culture and the energy of the team dynamics is off.
Yeah. So beautiful. I know, before I ask you my very last question, I know you have something coming up very, very special at the beginning of May, a master class. Can you tell us about that?
So for years, people, have asked me to coach them or how do you get involved? Or it's either not, they can't, and I can't coach everyone. What I coach has only been in private. And so I decided to start a master class on helping people build the mental fortitude, step into their greatness. And so this master class is really about building your mental fortitude and resilience to step into your greatest potential, to not accept average and to go for the highest level you could step into and take the limits and the ceiling off. And so that's the next one is going to be May 1st in Arizona. And you could go join the wait list. It's at coachdar.com. But it's so special because it's a small group that I get to spend 6 hours, which would be like 6 months of coaching. And I get to pour into people, and then obviously the network and the power of the people in the room there. So for so long, I've wanted to do this. I just didn't have the ability and the time to. And I've done a couple of them now. And there's so much beauty to that intimate room. And I'm at a point after 3 decades of doing my work. It's about passing on the knowledge. I'm really in the stage of I want to pass on. I want to call people up and I want them to step into their greatness because they're the ones that are going to help carry things on too. I'll still be there. I'll still be the lighthouse. I just want to give them the tools to know how to swim on shore.
Oh, beautiful. So check out that master class at Coach Dar. Where else can people find you online?
I'm most active actually on Instagram. It's at the Coach Dar. So THE and then Coach Dar. And I am on there. I'm on LinkedIn, all profiles you could find me, but the stories on there are where you'll see some insight that you won't see other places when I'm at games or I'm with players or I'm doing something fun, but also teaching, putting up. And then one other thing is I put out a newsletter and I never really talk about it, but every Thursday or Friday, I can't remember which day it goes out because I write them every week and I think they send out on Thursday, but it's about something from mindset, pro, resilience, greatness, and they come out every Thursday. So when you get on the website, you could sign up there too. So while you could engage with me on social, you could learn something. There's ways to stay interacted or come to the masterclass and spend the day with me.
Check out her stuff. I mean, you're going to be fully entertained. Every time I'm watching her stories, I get a sense of FOMO because she's like at all these exciting places. So
You're doing
definitely give her
amazing.
a follow. And go to the master class on May 1st. Definitely check it out. Now, my last question to you, Dar, of everything that you've sort of learned and picked up over the years of coaching, your resilience tools, your health tools, your biohack, what has been your best medicine?
I think I want to leave with this is that we as humans are more resilient than you could ever imagine. And if you look back the history of time around the world, the things that people have overcome. My mentor overcame as a 5-year-old girl living in the concentration camps going through the Holocaust. My mother went through some really hard times and she overcame it. But I mean, globally, you just see the things that we have as a world, not just one nation, a world has overcome. I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are way more resilient, and your day to day challenges you could get over, you could handle, you could overcome. And that the only stat that we all have that's 100% is our bounce back rate. So when I look at stats and performance, the only thing I've ever found 100% on is every person in front of me that's got to the other side because they're still in front of me means they have 100% bounce back rate. So you could lean on your data analytics to know that you've overcome everything that could have crushed you and you stood and you're standing and you'll still stand and you'll rise again with whatever's coming to you. So never give in to the hopelessness that sometimes the world feeds us as it's doom and gloom. Whatever's going on in our world, in our country, yes, there's hardships, but we've overcome them. It doesn't matter who's in position, where you are, what diagnosis, whatever it is. I've seen resilience and hope thrive where everyone said it was impossible. They showed that it was possible, but it starts here and here in order for you to start believing that and show up in that. But you are more resilient than you can imagine.
Coach Star, thank you for sharing your vibration, your love, your wisdom with us today. Thank you so much for being on the Thrive State podcast.
Thank you for having me on, and it's so good to see you, and I'll see you soon.
Yes, we'll see you next week. I owe you a Thrive State meal. All right. Bye-bye, my dear.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you have subscribed to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breath work, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How do you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.